So when I was planning to go to Antarctica, my wife was a little anxious because of the fact that you sail across the Drake Passage.
Yes.
And Drake Passage is not a easy sea, one of the roughest and scariest, you can say, that sea. So she was a little apprehensive. Somehow I could convince her, and then I could go to Antarctica. So we started our journey from Argentina, from the southernmost tip of Argentina. So that Puerto Madryn was the port from where we started our sail. And from Puerto Madryn, we went to Falkland Islands. So from there, the first species of penguin started.
You're right.
So in all, we could see 7 species of penguins. So that was Magellanic, the first species which we saw there. From there, we went to South Georgia. So South Georgia is the most amazing place I can say on the planet. The abundance of all the wildlife which is found there, and that is in huge numbers. So in South Georgia, we had almost 5-6 landings. In all, total 8 landings. And the most beautiful place was the St. Andrews Bay. So in St. Andrews Bay, we could see king penguin colony, where there are around 500,000 penguins at a place. So there were many breeding pairs, then chicks. So I think I can roughly estimate there were around 4 lakh breeding pairs of king penguins, then infants and some other sub-adults. So in all, there were around 500,000. Then that place is also very, very rich in good population of these elephant seals and fur seals.
Right.
From there, South Georgia, we sailed to Antarctica. So Antarctica is altogether a different landscape, a different world. So reaching and putting our foot on that land itself was really quite an amazing and emotional moment, I can say. So not many species as such. Still, we could see 3 species of penguins there. 2 are confined mostly Adelie penguin and chin strap, and again Gentoo penguins are common across all these landscapes in sub-Antarctic. But that was the really amazing. And passing through the Weddell Sea. Weddell Sea is also has a long history of being one of the most difficult sea to sail across. And one of the expedition which is very, very famous in the expedition history, if you go through, is Shackleton. So that is an amazing story of determination, commitment, and leadership. So that was a failed expedition. He visited all those places where Shackleton had been, and he brought back his entire team safely from that failed expedition after almost surviving more than 750 days in such adverse conditions in Antarctica. So visited all those, and then understanding the ecosystem, then geopolitics of Antarctica, then climatic challenges. So there was a lot to learn. And coming to the polar plunge, I did have a polar plunge in the north. We sailed across 80-degree north. So there I jumped from the ship into the sea, in the freezing sea. So that was a really challenging experience. Here in Antarctica, I just avoided because this was a little more difficult for me because we were taking the plunge. And after 15 minutes of Zodiac ride, we were coming back to the ship. So with that wet cloth. So I take a risk of getting any sort of problem in that cold water and that weather.
You thought about your wife.
Yes. So I didn't take a plunge in Antarctica. Right.
So from all the species that you mentioned, it seems like avian fauna is more suited to that kind of climate. Did you see any mammals as well? I mean, of course, there's polar bear, but apart from that.
Yes, when you go to Antarctica, so there are a lot of mammals, and that is one of the most productive sea, you can say. There's a kelp vegetation, and on kelp feeds a lot of other crustaceans and small fish, large fish. And this supports a very good whale population. Then coming to whale is also a mammal. Then coming to seals, There are different varieties of seal, and one of the largest seal in that area is the elephant seal, and the males weigh up to 3,500 to 4,000 kilos.
Oh,
So
wow.
they are huge in size. And the beach master, the most dominant male of a harem on the beach, I mean, by the size only you can appreciate who is the beach master.
Okay.
That is something amazing to see that sort of wildlife, and they are very in very good numbers.
Hmm.
So, the seals, and then other than birds, I'm talking I mean the seals and then whales. So they are in very good numbers,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
can
Hmm.
and different species of whales also.
So, with the Arctic Circle, where you went last year,
Right.
and the polar bear that you saw, were there mammals there in Arctic
Yes.
in more in number?
Arctic is not that. If you talk in numbers, the numbers of mammals is more in Antarctic, not in Arctic.
Okay.
Uh, and another thing is that because of the polar bear, other than walruses you find only in the north.
Hmm.
Walruses you won't see in the south.
Hmm.
So the mammals which we saw in Arctic were the large colonies of walruses, which normally polar bear avoids to confront or directly go for a kill. But they kill the seals as their main food at times in the northern area, in the Arctic area.
Hmm.
So there you won't find too many such these species in large numbers. But at times there are colonies of walruses and seals on the floating ice or such banks.
So when you are taking these huge, I mean, these long expeditions, and obviously it takes a physical toll, I'm sure, on your body as well. Um, uh, Plus, as a photographer, you've been acclaimed photographer for a very long time. What interests you more, the portraits of animals or the landscapes? In terms of like, what excites you more about going to Antarctic or Arctic?
So it is, I mean, I always prefer to take the animals in their habitat.
Hmm.
Unless you show the ecosystem in which the entire ecosystem in which the animal is living,
Hmm.
it doesn't tell you the complete story. So the interaction of that animal, if it is with other animals, that is, I mean, a really very good moment. But portraits also, because normally that's why we plan accordingly, like which wide angle lenses or medium range lenses or the long range lenses. So it depends like which species we are going to take photographs. So portraits, but not much, because the interaction between different animals within the species with other species, showing the entire ecosystem or the habitat, that gives you a more interesting stories in a picture.
Hmm. Okay. And so you've visited at least 35 countries, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
I have a list of all the countries that you visited. Some of these are like places I had not even heard of. For example, you have the South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands, Falkland Islands, of course. You've gone to Ethiopia, Norway, Madagascar, Rwanda. Uh, what place would you say should be made mandatory visit for all conservators?
Right. So, from the management point of view, firstly, no, normally most of the people they start with the Masai Mara, which
Hmm.
normally we call as a mecca of this wildlife.
Yeah.
So that is a unique place where you get to see a good number of species, both predator and prey. Then the big mammals, the normally we call the big five, you can see there. Now coming to the management part also, that is a very well managed park, and there you can also see the participation of community in the management of the park. So that is one very good example of management. Then other which I found was very interesting when I visited Virunga National Park, where you can normally go to see the mountain gorillas.
Hmm.
So mountain gorillas are found in three countries, and that Virunga Hills is spread in Congo, Rwanda, and Uganda. And the most organized safaris and the best managed park is the in Rwanda. So that is also one good place to go and see like how this this mountain gorillas once they were mostly on the verge of sort of extinction when their population had gone down below 250. Now that has revived back, and there are many really very good conservation efforts with the participation of the local community. So the major portion of the earning from the tourism that goes for the development of the community in the adjoining areas.
It's also the most expensive.
That is, yes, very true. That is one of the most expensive safaris. Uh, that is trekking safari in Rwanda. For 1 hour, you need to spend about 1,500 US dollars for one person. So that is the sort of costliest safari you can say.
Is there an argument to be made that Indian safaris should also be made expensive to increase the discipline and the all the malpractices that are happening with tourists these days?
If you compare, like in many even African countries, Botswana, Namibia, and even Tanzania, where the safaris are a little expensive if you compare with Masai Mara, Kenya. So the crowd which goes has a sort of definitely impact on the wildlife and the movement of wildlife. Many times it because of too many visitors moving around in the vehicles, and they mostly go in that at the time of great migration. That certainly impacts in a negative way to the the wildlife of that landscape. If there is not much of tourist pressure, so certainly the things would be better. Same goes for the Indian landscape also. So, I mean, it has to be regulated. Tourism has to be very, very responsible, where the people also should take care of once they are going for doing safari. So they should see that in no way the wildlife should be disturbed or should not be harmed. If you make a little expensive, so certainly, but there is a carrying capacity, and I don't think that even if you make it expensive, the number of visitors in India are going to, I think, decrease because you all know that with this much of population in India and looking to the carrying capacity, and mostly they prefer to visit only a certain number of almost 10, 12
Reserves.
tiger reserves. So there is always a lot of pressure. So even if there would be slightly increase, it is not going to make any sort of as such change in the on the number of visitors going in the park.
Also, isn't it true that the Indian reserves and national parks don't depend on the income of from tourism for proper functioning? That they get funds anyway from the government?
Uh, Partly true because the area which is open for tourism is just 20% of the core area. So that is the upper limit. So the maximum you can open a core area for tourism is just 20% of the total. So and another thing is if you see that except few of the tiger reserves, not all have a good footfall as such, and that doesn't generate a good amount of money from the ticketing as such. So that is and only certain parks have a mechanism where this amount goes for various development works related to wildlife conservation. Otherwise, in many states, it goes to the state exchequer, and that gets back to the tiger reserve in terms of the regular allotment. So that amount is not very, very large because our approach towards these safaris is somewhat different than the management in the African countries.
Could you explain a little more on that?
No, our priority is the wildlife. Actually, I mean, we take it as a place where the animals have their first charge. The wildlife, they get the priority over the humans who are going there in their space. So that is the major difference here. So we don't take it the wildlife conservation or our tiger reserves as a sort of any revenue generation activity as such, just by the way of taking
Yeah.
or more number of tourists inside the park.
Yeah, because I don't think the average Indian tourist is going to a jungle to get educated on the diversity. I think it's more of an entertainment activity, perhaps. I mean, I could be wrong about this, but that's what my experience has been. Because I live in Nagpur and I keep frequenting these places. The general, जिसको कहते हैं हिंदी में रवैया है कि where is the tiger? Show me the tiger. It comes down to that.
So it has become more tiger centric. That's why I always, even to all my friends also, I always request them to look for other species which are more important. I agree for one thing, that the tiger is the most charismatic species. No other animal has that charisma or the attraction. No other species on the planet. But
Almost to a fault.
yes, yes. So the tourism in the tiger reserves has become too much of tiger centric. So whoever goes there goes only for the tiger. So and we need to educate people also, like who are. We need to have quality naturalists and guides also, who can keep them engaged in case the tiger is not sighted. Many times it happens that people, I mean, just looking at their faces, you can very well know that whether they have seen a
Yeah,
tiger
yeah.
in the park. तो वो शक्ल से पता लग जाता है.
Absolutely.
And most of the time that guide is busy in chasing the tigers कि सर वहाँ पगमार्क मिल रहा है, वहाँ पे
Calling आ रही है.
calling आ रही है, कल वहाँ दिखा था. So mostly in this what happens, you don't get to see the forest also as such, and many other species or interesting stories which can people know about that forest.
Absolutely. I know tiger is your favorite. Then after that comes snake. What is your favorite snake?
I mean, the all the snakes, they are really very fascinating. So the most common, like I was CCF in Sydney, so that is very close to Nagpur. So and there I had got a very good team of this staff, or the rescue team, who were really experts in the snake handling. So the most number of the rescues were of rat snake many of the times, then Russell's viper, and the spectacled cobra. So rat snake is a very docile snake. And then coming to, cobra has got its own beauty. So nothing in the snakes, I think that is the most handsome snake, cobra. So people fear it most.
Yeah.
But cobra is one of the favorite. Then there are many other beautiful snakes also. And mostly those are, harmless also. But at times people take all the snakes as venomous. And as soon as they see, so they first try to, the first response is somehow eliminate that from their area or to kill the snake.
Right.
Yes.
uh, in your international trips, did you come across any interesting snakes?
Yes, in Madagascar, we saw some of the species. They were really looking like a wine snake only. That was really very fascinating in Madagascar. So, not seen in the wild as such in Africa. There was probably we could not identify. One saw one snake crossing the road. In Madagascar, we went to an area where there were many species. That was a place research station. So there we could see some of the chameleons and also the snakes all in that particular place.
Okay, so this is like more of a career question, which is I'm aware that now no longer a conservator doesn't need to stay in the jungle for that long with connectivity and water and everything. But earlier conservators used to spend a lot of days at stretch in the jungle. What is the longest time you spent in the jungle in your entire career at a stretch?
Like when I was field director Kanha, so I can easily say that in a month, 25 days I was spending in the forest. So
throughout the year?
Yes, most of the time, because my headquarter was in Mandla.
Okay.
And I was there just for 2 years. And in the initial first year, I did not take even a single leave. So, and even on the festival days also, I still recall, even Holi Deepavali, I was spending with my staff, because I mean, on the festival days, these areas become more sensitive for poaching,
Right.
because for celebration and the is bushmeat being the cheapest and easily available for the surrounding areas, so there are more chances of poaching of animals. So we had to be more vigilant and do some more
Patrolling.
patrolling. So the staff at that time cannot leave the patrolling camp. So it never looked nice, like if they are being there in the field and protecting the forest, and I should celebrate in my home. So I always stayed with them, and so festivals. So almost for a year. Next year, definitely, I went on a trip, but and there were many days when days together I was there in the forest. But being in the territorial, I don't recall. I mean, many times we were going to remote locations, being a DFO or CCF. I was CCF Sydney. So at a stretch, mostly 2, 3, at the maximum 4 days at times, but not longer. But in Kanha, I stayed longer in the forest.
I'm asking because I'm well aware of the loneliness epidemic that is there in the, especially amongst the people, the Van Rakshaks who stay in the jungle for a very long time. Did that ever happen to you?
Actually, for them, it is really very challenging for a staff, not for at senior level, because you have got some good accommodation, you have got camp residences. So, like in Kanha, also, I had two camp residences, one inside Kanha and another in Mukki. Or otherwise, also, I could have stayed in any of the rest houses. But for the frontline staff, it is really very challenging, and they are really, I mean, that isolation is very difficult. Because in the patrolling camps, anti-poaching camps in Kanha, they were deep inside the core areas where you don't have any mobile connectivity. They are only connected through the wireless system. The staff and only one watcher. So two people stay at a patrolling camp, and the family stays away in the village. They cannot keep their families. So taking care of family, being away from them, it's really a very, very challenging and difficult for the frontline staff who are there in the patrolling camps. And the only many times people say that we should have these safaris on all 7 days. There should not be. I mean, you must be aware. Like on Wednesdays afternoon, there is no safari in the
Yeah.
rest of Madhya. But the staff also needs back. They need to go to the market to buy some daily need items for them. So in patrolling camps, life is very difficult and very isolated. Not for us. I still recall one of my deputy ranger uh, from very beginning, from very earlier he was a work. I mean, this helper in the forest. Then he got regularized as this forest guard. Then got promoted up. He came up to deputy ranger. बेटी की शादी के समय उसने बोला, सर समाज में मैं जाता नहीं हूँ, तो मेरे लिए बड़ा मुश्किल है कि कैसे कोई बेटी के लिए लड़का देगा अपना। बात करना भी हमारे लिए मुश्किल रहता है, क्योंकि हम लोग जंगल में रहते हैं। पहले के समय का था कि किसी के फादर की डेथ हो गई, घर में कोई बीमार है, एंड दे वर नॉट गेटिंग इंफॉर्मेशन समटाइम्स फॉर इवन 4, 5 days एंड फॉर अ वीक। तो ऐसी भी सिचुएशन रही है। तो फ्रंट लाइन स्टाफ के लिए आई रियली सैल्यूट देम। वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर देम।
So I know Rajneesh sir has been doing some fantastic work with these people. Will it be well, sports may or trying to engage them in any way possible, employee of the month, and all these very
Yes.
interesting, innovative, creative ways that he's been trying to engage people. My one question to you is maybe us in our ivory towers, we talk about mental health and counseling and going to a therapist. Is that somehow possible? Because it is very difficult for me to convince my parents to go to a therapist, let alone a frontline worker in the jungle. So I absolutely understand the naivety of this question, but still, is it possible for therapy to somehow reach these people so that they can maybe feel better or be able to bear the challenges easily?
Support system, there has to be a very good support system from the management. Like I gave you example of Kanha. Rajneesh has earlier been in Kanha also.
Yes.
So I mean, there was a large support from the management in case there was any health issue with any of the our frontline staff. We had ambulances, we had tie-up with the private hospitals. We were sending them immediately for the best treatment possible. We also were running one hospital in Mukki area. There is one hospital run by the forest department. We have one doctor, a retired BMO working
Okay.
for the that dispensary run by the forest department. We are running a school to give good education to the frontline staff of the heads of the forest these personnel. So in such cases where you have got a good support and they are engaged with their work, there is not much of work related stress as such. Sometimes it happens that if we don't take care of, like Rajneesh is doing excellent work. I mean, he is very novel and innovative in his approach to keep them engaged, and that's why, and that is the way you keep a connect with your subordinate staff. So having and them keeping yourself reachable and approachable to your staff,
Right.
and having a communication open with them, so you can know very well if there is any staff that needs any sort of help, whether it needs counseling or medical help or education for the kids. So that should be available. Then he can, once he is stress free from all these responsibilities, he can really deliver for doing the good works towards wildlife conservation.
Right. Right. Uh, you started your career in territorial protection. Uh,
Right.
what were some of the key challenges that you faced? I know at some point you had to be given a lot of gun protection as well because you were threatened, and a lot of things have gone down. But could you tell me, like, what were the key challenges in that part of your life?
Yes. So initially, for almost 7.5 to years, I was posted in the Bindh region. So firstly, almost 3 years I was in CD. So that time I was in One Vikas Nigam. So that was mostly related to plantation work. But at times we had to go along with the territorial for some or some other operations. So there are also some small incidences, but mostly related to Riva when I joined Riva as DFO territorial.
Hmm.
So a lot of illegal mining used to happen in the bordering areas of UP. So most of the mining leases were sanctioned in UP, and they were doing illegal mining in the slopes of the hills which fall inside Madhya Pradesh. So, and most of these in such activities, criminals or many politicians, local politicians from both the sides they were involved. And it was really very difficult to keep a track of them, and even going with the police party all the time was not possible.
Hmm.
It was happening when we were going to visit any such areas, and we found that the mining is happening. So what we used to do was to destroy whatever stones were dug out from the that particular piece of land, and to destroy almost that. So even that was also not acceptable to those people, even if it's not catching or for any such people involved in such crime. So many times it happens when we went patrolling in those areas or for such, so we were attacked. So there are many incidences
What do you
happen.
mean attacked? Like, how would they attack?
Attack means like if we went with a team, so we were surrounded by villagers, and some of us were really beaten up very badly. So it has happened. At that time, I was young, so but I cannot. When I am going and leading the party, so I had to be in the last because many of the frontline staff were in their old ages. I mean, they were reaching almost their retirement, and once you have gone down on the slope of any hill to destroy all the whatever patiya patthar jo bolte hain, they were dug out, and you destroy them, and the people just say that see that it is a sort of loss for them, and then they call the villagers, and all the villagers they surround us. It becomes really difficult for the frontline staff who are in the late ages कि वो पहाड़ चढ़ जाए पूरा.
Escape.
स्केप करना पॉसिबल नहीं होता था, और मैं ये नहीं कर सकता कि मैं यंग हूं या हमारे साथ जो यंग है उनको छोड़ के आगे निकल आए. So it happened many times that By the time we could reach on the upper ridge, we were surrounded, and some of us were really beaten up. One incidents happened like in Kanha, when we were surrounded by villagers when we were rescuing a tiger. I still recall that was 4th December, my anniversary, wedding anniversary. And I had invited certain guests for dinner in my home. But suddenly I got a call that a tiger is found not in good condition. And that was area close to Mokki. So I immediately rushed to that place. By the time I reached, I got the information around 4:30. So by the time I reached that place, I was in Mandla, so it was dark. So we went to rescue that animal. It was not in very good shape, but still we had to tranquilize the animal before we could take him in the rescue vehicle. And when we were coming towards our Mukhi range office, so there was a village, and in the village there was some celebration going on, and the tribal village nighttime normally when they celebrate, they used to drink also. So there was a electric line, electric wire passing across the road. So the rescue vehicle is a little bit high because that has a container also for carrying the tiger.
Tiger, yeah.
उसमें yeah, and that house where they were doing the celebration, it all went dark. They all came out. They all surrounded the vehicle. They said that we'll not allow you to take the vehicle. पहले light ठीक कराओ. So it was not possible at that moment, and it was, I mean, more important to take the tiger safely from that area.
Exactly.
So they surrounded the vehicle and they said that we'll not let you take the tiger. First you see कि हमने कहा हम रुक रहे हैं यहाँ पे. Me, SDO and the range officer, we all stayed. Somehow we could manage to just take that vehicle, that the vehicle which was carrying tiger. So he could take that vehicle ahead, and then he straightway went to the Mukhi range office. In the meantime, we called police also. But police was also helpful. I mean, where there is such a mob, and in the dark, anything could have happened. So then they starting some sort of being physically with a range officer. Then me and the SDO, somehow I left my vehicle there because they were not allowing my vehicle also to go. फिर हम पीछे से किसी तरह निकल के then we took another vehicle and came to the range office. Our vehicle we could get only in the morning. So sometimes it really becomes very, very difficult and tricky in such situations.
When you're in that situation, if you can be, I don't know, if you can be absolutely honest, are you scared out of your mind? Are you able to keep your focus, or are you saying कि भाई भगवान मुझे बस बचा लो? Like, is that the feeling, or are you kind of like feeling like a soldier in that moment? कि no, this is my responsibility.
No, actually, when you're doing any job, taking it as a responsibility, I'm never scared actually. So one thing I did was when I was in Riva, I told that many times we were attacked. So after some initial attacks, then I was always taking. We had armed force with us, that SF special armed force. So I was taking one party of 1-4 with me, another vehicle. The people also, they carry the weapons in their personal weapon in the forest department. I was also carrying my revolver always.
Oh.
I thought that at least some safety measures we should also have with ourselves. So that gives a little bit of more confidence. But against the criminals, sometimes it doesn't work. One has to be very, very careful. So in that cases, whenever we were moving, we were not giving the accurate information on the wireless. Like if we are going in X direction, we were telling Y. So even from wireless also, many times you don't know like from where the information gets leaked.
Intercepted, yeah.
So one has to be very, very careful.
Did you have that revolver that night when you were surrounded with these villagers?
No. Actually, in Kanha, I never thought of. So after Riva, I never used to carry weapon with me. So that was the only time I was carrying when I was in Riva. I never thought of like in Kanha also this may happen. And in mob, you cannot do anything where, I mean, if you are carrying a weapon, you can't handle such situation with a weapon actually.
Hmm.
It, I think it will aggravate the situation.
Yeah. I mean, one would be tempted if they were young to kind of take the gun out, maybe fire a
So
shot.
it is only for the extreme situations when you feel that you are being cornered and not with a mob actually.
Hmm.
Then only it can work. I don't think that it is advisable to use any weapon as such.
Now, sir, you have, I think, scaled the highest positions in the department that you were in. Then you were, after your retirement, you were appointed, after 32 years of service, you were appointed into CZA. Then now also, after being a member secretary, now you're a consultant to the ministry. Uh, is this a different kind of loneliness at the top where you are, everybody's looking to you for answers and you have to make decisions out of options? Does it is it a lot of pressure? Do you feel like, uh, I will have to take the brunt of any mistake? What do you feel?
No, always the leader has to take a brunt of the any mistake from his team, his or her team. And if anything good is, it is always the team works for you. So the credit goes to the team. But for any if there is anything that doesn't go well, the leader has to take the responsibility. And I really enjoyed my posting here in Central Zoo Authority because I had earlier been always into the in situ conservation thing. And here it was totally new and challenging and also learning for me being involved with the ex-situ management. So some of Indian zoos are really doing very, very well in conservation breeding and this ex-situ conservation thing. So there was a lot of learning for me, and I never felt sort of any being at the top. Or you have always there's always a team that works with you, so there is nothing as such isolation, and I always like to have an open access with all my team and even the all the organizations or institutions which are there down below. So that is always good for giving good results.
There's this one person that I would like to highlight, Dr. Chiranjeev Devnath at the Sipahi Jala Zoo. He's
Yes,
been hand rearing clouded leopards.
right.
Mm, what are the circumstances under which a clouded leopard needs hand rearing? And I saw the video. Like, I've seen a little bit like clips of what the kind of amazing work he's been doing. But could you just speak to me a little bit about captive breeding and what all of this entails?
Right. So for conservation breeding, actually, we identified the species. I mean, going by the threat status to that species. So we identified certain species among different taxa. So clouded leopard is also one of the species which we identified for the conservation breeding. And for conservation breeding, we also assigned this responsibility to one of the zoo where this species has got natural distribution. So clouded leopard is found in that particular landscape. So Sepai Jhala Zoo was entrusted with the responsibility of breeding clouded leopard. Breeding it in captivity for all the species is not very, very easy as such. So clouded leopard initially, they have, that is the only zoo where you can see them uh,
Captivity.
in good enclosure, and that is the only zoo doing the captive breeding in captivity. And Chiranjeevi, he's really done he's a very dedicated biologist, and I think it was his commitment not only for clouded leopard, for many other species also. That because of his hand rearing, also because they were not surviving in a natural way. So that's why he took the responsibility. And if I remember correctly, they were pair of these cubs, and he hand reared them,
Yes.
and they are doing really very well. And I was lucky to see those cubs in Sapaizala in their conservation breeding facility.
So is the mission then to release them in the wild, to rewild them?
Right. because just breeding them in captivity doesn't hold any meaning as such for conservation. So when we talk of conservation, then conservation as a whole, or one conservation concept like linking in situ and ex situ conservation. So there are very good efforts of protecting the ecosystem or the habitat of clouded leopard in the wild. But again, just because the population is not very, very good, so it is always better you breed them in the captivity and again them release it back in the wild. But for predators, it is not very, very easy and very challenging. In the recent, we have done very good for many of the species. One important being birds like these vultures. Then coming to one very other important species is red panda. So the breeding of red panda that was done in by the Padmaja Naidu Himalayan Zoological Park or Darjeeling Zoo, and they released those females, the captive bred females in the wild in this Singalila National Park, and there they mated with the wild males and they gave birth to cubs in the wild. So that should be our approach to breed them in captivity. Like Hyderabad Zoo is doing very good work in the breeding of mouse deers. So they bred them in the captivity, then release them in the wild.
But before we release them, there is some collection of genetic samples.
Always, actually, once you go for doing conservation breeding, so it has to be done very, very scientifically, because otherwise the conservation breeding or captive breeding, these are two things. Like in captive breeding, whatever breeding you do in the zoo, there is no sort of any genetic profiling of the animals, and you just breed them to then increase them in numbers and to show the visitors. But if you are doing for conservation purpose, it has to be the genetic profiling is to be done. And for such animals, we maintain the stud books also with the animals which are taken for the conservation breeding.
Oh, what's a stud book?
The stud book gives all the details about any animal, like the parentage of that animal, and when it was born, where it was kept, like, and it is done for wherever you go for any sort of scientific breeding, maybe even for horses and even for the
Okay.
breed dogs. So they maintain a stud book to know the lineage or the parentage of all the individual animals, just to ensure that they should not come from the same bloodline. So to avoid the inbreeding. So the
Okay.
purpose is that there should not be any inbreeding. Heterozygosity has to be maintained.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what is heterozygosity?
I mean, more having a
Diversity.
diversity within that particular individual animal, right? That has to be maintained. That's why, just to give you an example, like for this snow leopard breeding program, the first pair of animals they came were from Zurich Zoo in from Switzerland, and also from one zoo from USA.
Okay.
Similarly, for red panda breeding, we got animals from Netherlands and from New Zealand, just to ensure that in the breeding we don't use the animals from the same bloodline.
Okay.
So it is done on very scientific way.
Right. And could you highlight maybe the works of Lacones?
Lacones is actually this was set up in CCMB, that Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology,
Hyderabad.
and Lacones is the Laboratory for Conservation of Endangered Species. So the purpose, the future, when we talk of the future, is the frozen zoo or the biobank. Like you were telling about story, I mean, keeping the genetic material of any animal for a longer duration. So normally, what you do that is you take certain tissues from the animals which are either dead or alive, and just keep them in frozen condition for future use. So one of the future, just to give you an example, like Przewalski horses, that is the only wild horse species.
Right.
So Przewalski horses, they were, I mean, using the genetic material which were kept in the San Diego Zoo. They were uh, uh, cloned in through a normal horse, and the babies were produced. Similarly, the northern, this white rhino is probably soon going to be extinct
Hmm.
because there are only two females. The only male it died in 2018, right? So only two females remain now, but they have got the genetic material of almost 14 individuals with the San Diego Zoo, and many of the European labs also they have got genetic material. So they are working to revive such a species, and unless you have got the genetic material from different individuals, so again the inbreeding issue will come. So the same thing Lacons was doing, it was supported by Central Zoo Authority, and the responsibility entrusted is uh, uh, to keep a bank of genetic material of all the endangered species of the native species also, as well as the exotic species, whatever we can do. So Lacons is keeping the genetic material of endangered species. And another one regional center has been established in the Darjeeling Zoo. The same biobanking facility has been developed because what we want is there should be regional centers, because once the animal has died and you are collecting the genetic material, so storage and again the transportation becomes challenge. So if it is not a long distance to transport, it is always better and for the safety of the genetic material.
Right.
Another is set up in Darjeeling. So once the genetic material has been taken out of the animal, it would be stored in the biobank in Darjeeling. So similarly, there are other regional centers also proposed. We were thinking of having in Chennai also one center, and then again in Delhi. So let's see.
What was your conversation like with Dr. Oliver Ryder when you visited?
Yes, I mean he is a legend and he is the specialist in this field actually. So even I was giving you an example of Przewalski horse. So even one fowl was named on baby was named on Oliver only. So when I had gone to attend the conference CPSG, that Conservation Planning Specialist Group, so he is a leading expert, and we had a long discussion on related to this biobanking and frozen zoo.
Hmm.
That was the issue where what we discussed with him.
I think this is such an exciting part of conservation with the genetics now in the fold, and especially we've been seeing the dire wolf come back and a lot of other things that with cloning. Two
Yes.
questions here. One, according in your opinion, which Indian animal is ripe for maybe like a first India's cloning experiment? And secondly, what animal would you like to bring back from the dead, if at all?
I mean, the first most charismatic when we are talking about is a cheetah. I mean,
Right.
the native uh, Asian cheetah, Asiatic cheetah, because we tried to get the genetic material from Iraq, but we could not get any success as such.
Acha,
Right?
there was an attempt from Iran as well.
From Iran, there was an attempt, but we could not get. So
Yeah,
that was
because their cheetah is really in a bad condition, right?
yes, yes. So if we get certain material from Iran, then that can be thought of doing cloning. Then there are many species. Another very important species is caracal. So the status is not exactly known, and then there are many birds also. The lesser florican, the GIB. So these can be considered for, I mean, doing some sort of work to do cloning. I mean, not when we talk of any extinct species, I'm not very sure like which species we would prefer, but there are many species which are really on the verge of extinction.
Hmm. In your 32 years of service, how many times did you come across the caracal in the wild?
I've not seen in the wild. I've not seen.
I mean, sure that's the case with many of the people. I think there was a photograph of it. I think a few days ago, some photographer caught it on the camera trap.
Yes.
That's definitely something I would be very interested to see conserved. Okay, so let's take for example the we are good now. Are you getting bored?
Yes. No, not at all.
Okay. So let's take, for example, the forest owlet. Okay. I know you have some experience photographing the forest owlet as well. Uh, Say I were to conserve the forest owlet, which is an endangered species. How would I manage the forest so that this species is conserved?
Okay. So if you see that is endemic to a certain area, actually that is species,
Yes.
right? So I mean, from where did you get this information about the forest owlet as such?
No, no. I just googled that. I mean, I've been reading about you as well. So,
Right.
is my information wrong? Is it not endangered?
No, no, no. You are absolutely right.
Okay.
So yes. So I mean, it is limited to a very small area, and I was lucky to be there at that time when Prachi Mehtaji was doing her study
Okay.
on that outlet. So that time I was in Khandwa.
Okay.
They were doing a study on the status. So they had made a grate across the forest area, right, is spreading from Khandwa, Burhanpur to Melghat.
Yes.
So because that is the area where normally it was,
Endemic to that area.
yes, to have distribution. Then to record their presence, they were playing the sound of that bird, and when it was calling back, so they were marking its presence. Then they could capture some of the birds also for putting ring on their legs to study the behavior and the pattern of movement. And it mostly it is found in the teak forest, and it perches very high on the tree.
Right.
Not easy to locate as such, not very easy. So it was proposed. So that time I was writing the plan, working plan also of Khandwa division. We proposed to protect that entire area wherever we had distribution of forest outlet, not to do any sort of felling in that area, so that there is no disturbance as such for that species. Yes.
When I okay, so about your more works, there's something that I read about your work somewhere. I'm not sure where, but I took this quote out. So the his year is you. So the quote says, among his most impactful contribution was the rewilding of orphaned tiger cubs, an intricate and sensitive process where cubs separated from their mothers are trained to survive independently and eventually released back into the wild. Uh, how do you train a tiger cub to be independent? I mean, let alone it's so difficult with a human cub, but how do you train a tiger cub to get independent? What is the step by step of that?
Okay. So this was actually, I give all the credit to my predecessors. I was lucky to be posted in Kanha. So that has a legacy of having some of the finest wildlife officers, and some of them who occupied the top position in the country, like just to name HS Pawar Saab, Padma Bhushan. So he headed the Project Tiger. Then he was in the founding director of Wildlife Institute of India. Then Rajesh Gopal sir, he also headed, and he was instrumental in the setting up of anti-CA. Then this was in time of Nayak sir. So he actually came up with this idea of having a place where we can simulate sort of the natural conditions where the tiger can grow. So in there is a facility at a place called Gorilla in Kanha, close to Mukki. So where we have got a large enclosure, and just to we keep the animals there, and just to minimize the human imprinting, it is closed from all sides from the curtains also. Initially, we used to have watchtowers where we used to have watchers who were making records of the movement of all the animals, and at a regular interval, we were giving them the live animals also, so that they can learn hunting in a natural way. So now coming to how do we start, it depends on normally at what age the animal
Was orphaned.
and cub. Yes. So in my time, I still recall there was a tigress. Just because you come from Nagpur,
Ji.
you might have heard one named Bagin Nalawali tigress. She was a sibling of Collarwali tigress. So
Okay.
she was very popular tigress near Turia. So she died in a case of poisoning.
Oh.
So when Baghin Nalawali died, so two of her cubs were taken to Gorilla. They were rescued from Pinch, and they were taken to Kanha. And again, one of them died of septicemia. So only one female cub survived. So normally we start giving them the minced meat, depending on the age. So minced meat of chicken, then minced meat maybe of goat. Then gradually we take them to live prey, like firstly being the fowl, the poultry fowl. Then coming to a small, some other maybe goats. Then we gradually shift them to the natural prey. Mostly these are the cheetahs. So the cheetahs are lured into an adjoining enclosure from the natural forest area, and then from the natural forest, once they come inside the adjoining enclosure, they are released in the enclosure where these animals have a
Okay.
tigers are free to move around and they
Hmm.
can hunt in a natural way. So at a time we were keeping 5, 8, 10 deers as such inside. And normally even the tigers also just doesn't kill for fun.
Hmm.
It only kills when it has to feed, and the only time we were going inside were just to remove the carcass. So also we were had double head to gate. We were going on the elephant backs to remove the carcass, ensuring that the staff is safe when we are doing all such operations. And sometimes for other operations, also cleaning the weeds or cutting off grass, maybe
Maintenance.
maintenance.
Hmm.
So that is how we were just ensuring then giving them different sort of prey also,
Right.
so that they are not only identify cheetal as a prey. So sometimes some larger animals.
Right.
So that's how. And normally at the age of 2.5 years, when we think they have started doing the hunting in a proper way. Uh, I mean, when they charge an animal, when they kill it, it doesn't die out of pain. So they are doing it properly.
Hmm.
That
Okay.
was at the right time when it can be released, and it was always preferred to release them in such a landscape where there's not much of tiger density, where they come in direct conflict with other animals.
Right.
Like I still remember that the female was taken to Noradehi, that a cub which was rescued from Pench was released as a sub-adult in Noradehi National Park, and another male was brought from Bandhavgarh.
Hmm.
There they mated and gave birth to litters also. So that
Wow.
was very successful.
Yeah, because Dr. Mishra told me he's the vet at Painch. He was telling me that these animals learn from the old tigers. The cubs will watch the old tigers. So in the brevity of not having an idol, uh, they still have the natural instinct to hunt and kill the.
To our experience, because I still remember that some of the tigers which were introduced in Panna, they were from that gorilla enclosure only, where this orphan comes for sort of trained for.
Okay,
Similarly, I had the experience of that female of Bagin Nalawali.
right.
So it also survived very well in the wild, and they gave birth and they added to that ecosystem of the tiger. That national park.
Okay, so sir, I now want you to recall a memory. You are, I think, in Kanha, if I'm not mistaken, and you get the news that that Munna has killed an infant, and it is the infant of this T59 tigress. And you reach the spot and you see that Munna is sitting next to this half-eaten cub, and the tigress is a little further away. She's sitting, and you describe that moment looking at that tigress as saying that I could see the remorse of not being able to save her cub in the eyes of the tigress. Uh, do you recall
Yes,
that moment?
yes, very well. Because she had a fight just to save the other cub with Munna.
Hmm.
So T15, that famous tiger of Kanha, T17. Sorry,
Okay.
T7.
Okay.
So when once I got that this information of infanticide, I immediately reached to the spot, and there I saw Munna sitting with that half-eaten cub, and the female was just sitting at a little distance, and really I could see from the behavior and the emotions which normally comes out when you see to an animal. So that was really out of, a sort of remorse of that
But
moment.
so I want to think about that moment objectively and tell me how much of that was maybe like the father in you or the parent in you projecting those emotions on that tigress, or do you? Like, I have never experienced that, so I really genuinely am curious that really do these animals show these kind of expressions and emotions?
I mean, I have two different experience. This is one I am telling you, where I could really feel that, because again she was trying to save the other cub. That's why she was keeping a cautious watch on this male, just to keep the other cub safe. So that was one thing. And in other case, I might have shared those images also, where a cub had died, just getting into a trap.
Oh,
Right. So there was a snare, and that cub got killed because they had put that trap, probably that snare, for wild boar, and accidentally this tiger cub got into that snare and got killed. When we got the information that there is a tigress eating another tiger, a cub. So once we approached, what we saw was that the mother and the other sibling, they were taking turns to eat that body of that the cub which had died. So then, I mean, and discussing with the other experts and also from the other people who have seen such uh,
sights.
in the past, and they know better than, I mean, because I don't take it, we are more managers, neither expert nor experts. So we are more like managers in such areas. So when I discuss, I just found it out, like it, once the animal has died, it sort of becomes a sort of food resource for them. So that's why they were feeding on them. But again, coming to that, the other incidents where I mentioned that I could see the emotions. But here the mother was feeding on the dead cub, but on the other hand,
Mourning
the
another cub.
yes. So these are two different behaviors. I cannot relate as such.
Uh, okay, so Project Tiger has obviously been a world class success in every aspect. One of my not so educated criticism, I'm an absolute layman, but my criticism would be that although tiger population has increased, but it is not evenly distributed. That I mean, everybody knows what is happening in Chandrapur. Uh, you've you've done scat analysis, and I know you've contributed in some studies about man-animal conflict. Do you, in your bird's eye view, have a solution for man-animal conflict? I mean, I've heard you talk about this topic a lot, but I'm unable to understand that why can't we have tigers in Odisha? Why can't we have more tigers in Chhattisgarh? Because we have forests there, right? Our carrying capacity is supposed to be around, I don't know, 15 to 20,000. I mean, the numbers differ, but isn't that true?
Coming to carrying capacity, it depends on many factors as such. I mean, the way how you are managing your forest, and if there is not much of difference, so I mean, you can, and even very well, this increase or decrease what you say as carrying capacity.
Yes, yes.
If you start managing, if your buffer areas like a core area, it will definitely support a good tiger population. If because your buffer areas are multiple use areas, and the purpose of having a buffer is to minimize the conflict. And there is a core area which is an inviolate area only for the wildlife or for the tigers, and then there is a buffer, and then there are the other areas which are not for purpose of both. If you try to manage your buffer area also as a core area, so definitely you can very well easily you can increase the population of the tigers if there is not much of different, I mean, much of disturbance, and if you give the good protection. But many times the movement of tigers is not in our hands, and especially in such cases when the tiger grows and sub-adult has to find a new territory to settle in, it will definitely explore new areas. And such sub-adults are, if you see their behavior, They are many times very inquisitive. They try to explore, and then that goes even in the interaction also with other species, even in the with the humans.
Hmm.
So normally a mature tiger would avoid, but not many times it happens the sub-adults exploring new areas. So that is one of the time when the conflict increases. You are doing good conservation work, the population is increasing, but again, at the cost of increasing conflict in those areas where the population is increasing, like you gave the example of Chandrapur. So we have to look like how do we manage such areas where we have got a good human population. So we have to be very very careful. Otherwise, these conflicts are going to increase. You were giving example of Chhattisgarh or Odisha. So why don't we have the a good tiger population? So it depends also. I mean, I will not, I'm not very, very sure and confident about the management of those tiger reserves. But certainly, tiger will settle in an area because I know that from Kanha, it is a good connectivity to Achanak Mar. And there are records of tigers from Kanha moving even to Bandhavgarh, where there is no ecological corridor as such.
Hmm.
But even they can move to long ranges, many times doing movement at the night time
Okay,
or
look, crossing roads.
through roads or streams. So, but in the adjoining areas of Chhattisgarh also, because maybe one of the reason of disturbance, not having good prey base is one of the important thing, and the other availability of other things like water also. So these are, if the habitat is not good, there is much of disturbance. They won't prefer to move to those areas.
Hmm.
So that's one of the thing.
And prey base is also important, I guess.
Very very important.
Hmm. Uh, what is the solution for diclofenac poisoning in vultures?
I mean, the things have changed, and I think it is lot better now.
How did that change come?
No, I mean, diclofenac, it was banned for veterinary use
Okay,
because it is banned. The
right.
veterinary use of diclofenac is banned.
Okay.
But still, the pharmacy stores normally, what do they do? That whatever such medicines are available for human consumption, we have to look for the other cheaper options. The other alternatives which are available are a little costlier. So still, despite having a ban on that, but
Hmm.
things are really things have improved, and I'm not exactly sure with the figures, but just because vulture population is showing a positive trend as well.
So I heard you describe forest resources in four large buckets: land, mineral, jungle, and animals. Uh, I was just wondering that is there any merit in having an Indian wildlife services so that we have a more specific engagement for wildlife, more specific for forest?
That was long debated earlier also.
Hmm.
So there were few people who were having that sort of. So, but in my opinion, I mean, we are more like managers because we all of us have a background of uh, wildlife training during the course of our academics, and the people who have got an interest. So, and that gives you, if you keep a wildlife service separately, that won't give you a very sort of diversity of officers. Then you will be having very limited options. So here from the forest, I mean a very large cadre of forest officers, you have got a good diversity of good officers who have really got interest in wildlife. So and who can deliver. So
Hmm.
I think that is one of the advantage. And I mean, wildlife is not only limited to as such in the protected areas. Even it is outside. If I served in Madhya Pradesh, so I know that though I was not in the protected areas earlier, but just because I had interest in wildlife, so wherever I was posted, I was working towards wildlife conservation.
Hmm.
The only thing is you are more focused once you are posted in the wildlife. So all the forest officers, I think they have that ability to manage these such protected areas, and wherever you need. some specialized inputs or management, at times management intervention. So anytime you can help take help of these expert people, or such institutions like Wildlife Institute of India has always been a great support
Yeah.
to such tiger reserves and national parks.
Uh, why are there only 19 rescue centers in India?
Right. A very good question, because I always insist on having more rescue centers, and especially in your state, Maharashtra.
Yes.
Because having more number of animals like tigers and leopards, they are going to the rescue centers. So we need to have a sort of analysis available with us, like with the growing population, and in the coming years, how many animals we are going to rescue and put them for the lifetime care.
Right.
So, so we need to have a good setup of rescue centers across the country, where the animals which are captured can live a decent life, the rest of the life, for the lifetime care. So the animal welfare is very, very important, whether you keep the animal in captivity or the animal is free ranging. So free ranging is ready to take care of himself, there is no problem. But once you catch any animal, any problematic animal, you capture and you bring them in the rescue center, it becomes our responsibility to give them a decent life for the rest of his life. So we need to have more rescue centers, and especially specific rescue centers are required. So, like many of the cases for the smaller animals, like if you capture a snake or birds, unless it is injured and needs a lifetime care, so most of the time you treat the animal, whether it's a snake, you just capture any problem animal and release them to some other place. But if any animal or bird needs a lifetime care, so you need to have such facilities. There are, other than these rescue centers, there are transit facilities, transit treatment facilities available with the state governments. So the chief wildlife warden allows for setting up of the transit treatment facilities or the transit treatment centers, where the animals which are, I mean, they don't need long term care. And normally we define long term care as beyond 30 days.
Okay.
So where the animals, they don't need long-term care, they just need a care for certain days or just a couple of weeks. They are kept in the transit treatment center. They are treated and then released back.
Right.
So that is so many of the states are having these transit facilities other than rescue centers, especially in the northeast. We need to have more number of rescue centers, because many times it happens that the zoo, the all such rescued animals come to the zoo, and zoo has got a limited space based on their that layout plan, collection plan, and they don't have much space. So such animals, they are kept in some very small cages or enclosures. So that is not good for keeping such animals.
And as I understand, a zoo may not want a specific notorious animal or a problematic animal. They may feel that it'll be a big burden to have a separate enclosure, or it'll be too much of an expense to have that kind of an animal. Take a separate team for it.
No, that the only issue is because zoo is a sort of a planned way of keeping animals.
Right, right,
There you have got a layout plan, and you have certain number of enclosures based on your collection plan, like which animals you want to keep in your zoo and which you want to display.
right.
So there is a space only available for the animals which they want to keep in the zoo. Now the animals which are coming over and above these animals, so you don't have any space to keep as such. So normally what happens, they keeps the rescued animals or the problem animals, once they come to the zoo, they keep them in such enclosures which are either not in use. Sometimes it happens that animal has died, so that cage or that space is vacant, so you keep the animal, but may not be fit for that species. It may need larger space. And similarly, if the space is not available, any room is not there, or resting cell or the night cell is not available, they keep them in small cages. So that is not good for keeping such animals. So we need to have good rescue facilities.
Uh, uh, 500 square meter for a leopard, 1000 square meter for a tiger. Those are the, as per the norms, minimum requirement. How do you arrive at such numbers?
These are based on certain standards, and after doing a study from the other zoo across globe.
Okay.
So there is recently we are again going to revise all these guidelines. So there is a committee was constituted of having some of the senior officers who had experience of zoo management. So again, the this minimum guidelines for such enclosures have again been revised. They are in the process of revision, so that will go in the technical committee. So that approves. So it is based on the standards which are available across globe, and it varies from species to species. If you have seen those
Okay.
minimum standards.
What is your opinion on petting zoos and these exotic bird parks? Because I know they don't fall under the jurisdiction of the exotic bird park. Bird parks don't fall in the CZA, right?
Actually, Wildlife Protection Act defines a zoo.
Hmm.
And in the definition in section 2, you can see the definition of a zoo and also the captive animals. So there are various schedules. So in schedule 4, like if I am correct, all the cited species are there. The native species are there only in the schedule 1 and 2. So the zoo is a place where you keep the captive animals, and the captive animals in the act are defined as only the schedule 1 and 2
Right.
animals.
Endemic animals.
Yes. So native animals.
Hmm.
So if you take if you are setting up any zoo, means you are keeping native species, and the maximum number of exotic species in a zoo you can keep is only up to 25%.
Okay.
So like if you are keeping 100 species in a zoo, so the upper limit for the exotic animals is 25. The rest 75 have to be native. But if you are establishing a zoo which is recognized by the Central Zoo Authority, uh, uh, based on the Wildlife Protection Act and the guidelines and rules, recognition of zoo rules, then for even for exotic animals, you need to have permission from CZA.
Right.
Petting is not allowed as per our regulations, so we don't allow petting or touching or teasing or feeding animals. Petting zoo, like you were talking about the exotic animals, so they have been set up because they don't require a sort of permission or approval from central zoo authority, just because they are keeping only exotic animals. So the petting which they are doing it under comes under the guidelines of the Animal Welfare Board of India.
Okay.
So I was even discussing with them also to come up with the regulations, like what do we call as petting and how much it should be allowed. Because I know that many of the big cities there are many such zoos they are coming up. Where do they allow the petting of animals?
Yes.
So
Yes. I mean, also because of, I mean, people like you and leadership like you, we also have a zoo like Gorewada, which is coming up. Which is, I mean, I visited there.
right.
Absolutely awestruck by the fact that this can also be a zoo. And I've had the good fortune of going to London Zoo as well. I'm sure you must have visited that as well.
Not
And
London Zoo, but
so you've not
yes,
been, okay. So I mean, of course, I mean, I'm talking to the expert here, but my experience with the London Zoo was that that you go into an enclosure and the animals are free roaming, and I mean, I could possibly, in theory, I could touch that animal, but of course, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to. And there are people there who are making sure that the tourists are not touching the animals. But I mean, a sloth is just hanging in front of me. I'm face to face with a sloth, or birds are crossing in front of me, and it was an absolutely amazing experience for me. And I guess we are moving in that direction a lot more now with the zoo safaris and all of that. Uh, is that true?
yes. So I mean, world over, if you see earlier, these zoo used to be very small spaces, like where all the animals were kept in small enclosures.
Hmm.
now the approach has changed. I went to San Diego, so there is an older zoo also, and now there is a San Diego safari at a little distance from there. We can get a larger land available with them, and in that safari, you show the animals based on different geographical location from where they come. I mean, they had Asian safari, they had African safari,
Wow.
so where there are large spaces, and that gives you a sort of a drive-in naturalistic safari where you are driving in through a natural space.
Right.
Here in India, also we are trying to come up with those drive-in safaris, uh, which are very large enclosures, where the animal have got more space to move around, and that gives you a more naturalistic feeling of creating a sort of that a habitat which normally animal lives in.
Right. What, according to you, is the best zoo in the world?
No, I mean San Diego is really one of the best I've been to, and there
Because
is
of
so
these reasons that they have these habitats and proper enclosures and all of that?
even on a research part also they are doing very good. They have got a very good facility,
Right.
and they have got the best biobanking facility. They have got a research center. So that is one of the best zoo which I have visited. I visited many zoo across different countries, but San Diego I found really very very good.
And in India?
In India, actually, we started doing a management effectiveness evaluation, like the way it is doing. It is done for the tiger reserves.
Right.
So presently, we have got 156 zoo and the rescue centers, and we had around 40 large and medium category zoo. So we did management effectiveness evaluation, and for both the large and medium category zoo, just 4 years back. Now the second cycle is just to take. I mean, that is in the process.
So I think Darjeeling and Chennai Zoo stand out.
Yes. So the overall, it was Darjeeling which scored the most, and the large category it was the Chennai Zoo.
Mm-hmm. And what makes the Bangalore Zoo so commercially viable?
Right. So again, coming to that safari, that model,
Oh,
if you see that, I mean, that has the maximum revenue earning zoo in the country, that Bangalore, it is close to, I mean, 65 crores now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they have those safaris. So that is the major thing which makes the difference.
Wow. Okay. Just a couple of more questions, then I'll let you go. Promise.
Sure, sure.
Um, what is some opinion or some thing that you believed in, which has absolutely seen a sea change in the last 32 years after being in the forests?
Uh, if I talk of wildlife, like I mean, earlier, you're talking about my from my perspective, or as such in the
Your perspective, your opinion, your experience.
right. So, like initially, when I joined, I was not much aware about I mean, these biodiversity issues or the wildlife conservation. I mean, initially, I was more concerned about the protection part or the silviculture, the forestry operations, where we manage the forest from the British period. We have been managing forest from the point of view of generating revenue.
Commercial, yeah.
So we normally take forest only as trees, where we do the silviculture so that we can get maximum output in terms of trees as timber from the forest, and we can generate the revenue. Then other thing was NTFP. There was not much focus on the biodiversity as such. When I was doing the working plan, because that is the one document which is approved by the government of India, and any forest is managed uh,
Basis.
on the basis of this working plan. And this is a document which has a period of, I mean, gives you a prescription for managing that forest for 10 years. So that was a time gradually my perception started changing to, I mean, other things also. When I was doing this working plan in Khandwa. That was a time I generated my interest in other smaller life forms. So that was a time when I got fascinated with snakes.
Okay.
So firstly, so that was in close to 2010, if I recall. I mean, 15 years back. It was not from the very beginning.
Right.
Tigers, I was fascinated. I know that when I was posted in Chindwara from 2004 to 2009. So that was the time I was going page as a routine almost every 10-15 days
Yes.
because going from Chindwara. But again, coming to other life forms, I gradually my focus changed. Then coming to Kanha Tiger Reserve, then again I realized the importance of the entire ecosystem as such or the ecology. So that was a time I was looking also to the zoo. I never prefer to go to a zoo whenever I was visiting. That's why when you asked me about visiting London Zoo, so that was the time I visited London. I had just, uh, I mean, just before my posting to Kanha Tiger Reserve.
Right.
So that time I
Zoo was not on your mind. Yeah.
not in mind or never in priority.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to refer only to the, natural wildlife areas. So I had visited other areas, but then the zoo never came to my mind. Only after getting posted here, I realized the importance of zoo because normally we take them only as a place where we go to see the animals for fun or for recreation. But there are other things like related to education and research also
Yeah.
normally which you cannot do for many of the animals which once they are there in the wild. So the other aspects then coming to the conservation part, the ex-situ conservation or the conservation building. So there are many things which you are then again you are keeping a reserve population in zoo for such a species which have a chance of getting extinct in the wild. So these are the so that perception has changed over a period of time. So when I joined the service, I was not much into the wildlife, and even about the wildlife, my perception changed a lot because till the time I was in Kanha Tiger Reserve, I did not have much idea because I was not exposed to many of such things. So these were the learning in my entire journey. So with the experience and with these such exposure, I get an opportunity to have a sort of a holistic view about the in situ and ex situ conservation.
You started your, your education from your Allahabad University was in immunology, immunochemistry. It's a very scientific, obviously, like, it's a scientific bent of mind. And then you come to this management aspect. And I think somewhere that scientist inside you kind of like found his interest in wildlife because everything following that is like related to genetics, conservation, PhDs, scientific aspects of it. It's like I found like in studying about you, I saw like a scientist finding his science back. Like I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, to some extent, yes. I was always fascinated. Actually, I did my PG in human biochemistry, and the most interesting field for me was the immunology or the immunochemistry, and I wanted to pursue my career in that. So CCMB was one place where I was looking for. That was one of the premier institution or Indian Institute of Science. But somehow the peer group, and the friends all were appearing for civil services. So I also just started preparing. And the destiny is where you finally land up. So you never know many times. So initially, this was not my choice. I wanted to go to become a scientist.
Abroad.
Yes, abroad. But this again, because these were in my days, the biotechnology or the biochemistry or the immunochemistry. So there were good opportunities for even for study also were available abroad only. So that was my intention that time. But now I don't have any regret because this service gave me such a good opportunity to work close to nature. And I always thank God for giving me this opportunity. I got a very good cadre in Madhya Pradesh where we had very good forest, the wildlife, and even coming to Government of India, another opportunity for working for animals, and even today also. So I've really been lucky that way.
Yeah, I think the government doesn't let the good bureaucrats go away so easily.
So,
Retirement is just a milestone.
so it was absolutely my pleasure actually to again join the Central Zoo Authority. So where again I am working for animals.
Yeah. And it's very heartening on a personal level to see your kids be so proud of you. I know. Is it Mr. Shashwat, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes,
Your son, and I think you have a daughter as well, right?
yes.
Yeah, she's an IPS, if I'm not mistaken.
She is my daughter only, but not exactly my blood as such.
Okay.
She is IPS. She has got Kerala cadre.
Oh
Then
wow, that's amazing.
is just preparing for UPSC now. I mean, it depends.
Okay.
Yes,
And I'm sure they'll do amazingly well. I mean, it's genetics.
yes.
Just last question, sir. Then I'll let you go. Uh, when the future forest officers look back at your legacy and the legacy of your generation, if you don't want to be that specific, what do you think they'll say? They'll appreciate about you, and what do you think that you will ask forgiveness for?
I mean, to all the young officers, I always say that you have to be very, very professionally competent because now in a present scenario, you have to be very meticulous towards your work, and you need to have a sort of diverse knowledge because forest is one thing. Normally, we should not limit ourselves only to the forest opportunities. There are opportunities available beyond this also. So we need to explore the newer areas, newer fields. Where being a forester, we can try to get opportunities of working outside the department also. So this is one thing. You have to be professionally very, very competent to make your place in the among your peers or among your colleagues to stand out because that is the one thing your only professionalism that makes you stand out among others. So one that is one thing. Then again, trying to explore new areas, new field, and there also you can gain experience because working outside department also enriches you many times. So I'm not only asking to work for other departments. I mean, even trying to come out of the state also
Travel.
to yes. So that is one thing that was on the service part. Now coming to other areas like having a passion for exploring new areas. Not only I'm saying that you visit only wildlife area or you do wildlife photography. That is your choice, but exploring the other good works being done at different places of your interest. So that always I mean going visiting and say like horse mouth like you are telling that telling stories
Yes.
from the persons. So the same way if they hear from the horse mouth that if they visit the place they see themselves, so that really enriches you if you explore those areas. So for my message for my I mean younger colleagues or the friends is that be professionally competent, stand out among this crowd, and try to explore new areas to enrich yourself.
Thank you so much, sir. I don't think it could have ended, the interview could have ended on a better note. Uh, I'm really grateful for this opportunity. But just before we end the recording, is there any feedback for me? Is there anything that I did well, did bad? Is there any improvement needed? Please let me know.
No, I'm really surprised you have done such a good research for many of the things. It seems like I've just forgotten about myself.
Yeah, yeah. I think some of the best people that I interview, they've done so much work that whenever I ask them questions, they're like, "Oh, how did you know this?" But it's honestly, you've done such great work. It's out there. It's only,
So,
it's like you have to seek out all this information.
so I'm really, really very happy that you did a wonderful sort of research work about myself. So I'm really, I could recall many of the things which I've sort of almost forgotten.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really, really joyful, and I'm interviewing someone after a very long time, so I was a little nervous, but you made it very easy for me. And nowhere in talking to you did it feel that I'm talking to such a big bureaucrat or such a big person. You have extremely humble personality. Thank you so much, sir.
It was absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so
If you
much.
learned something new from this episode of the Horsemouth podcast, do rate and review us on Spotify, Instagram, X, or wherever people engage with you the most.